Carson, thank you for joining me
I'm glad to be
at
here,
this
Will.
podcast. It's late. It's 2 days before Thanksgiving.
It is.
Well, it's going to be published after Thanksgiving, but
Yeah.
but again, with the context. And if you hear, I'm trying to reduce the noise, but if you hear some kind of music, but off and on, but it's for,
Yeah.
we are right here on top of on the 10th floor of Benedum trees. I could pretty much see the village and the Christmas tree from here.
Yeah, and of course it started right as when I first got here, the music was not playing.
Yes,
As soon as Will said,
yes.
let's click record, then the music starts.
Yes. Somebody just doesn't like us. All right, so probably they know what we're gonna talk about. Anyways.
That's very funny. That's a classic podcasting situation. As soon as you start recording, there's construction, or there's a plane, or there's something always flying overhead.
Right.
Noise.
And when we joined this location, the Pittsburgh Downtown Media Hub, they actually have a special podcast room.
They do.
And,
that's where we record.
Right.
Yeah.
We're gonna go back to that.
Yeah, we'll start. I didn't mean to jump us ahead in the.
Yeah, but I'm going there. That's a good segue. But then I was told that it was in summer. I said, okay, just be careful or be whatever that the AC room when it kicks in.
That's the least of your problems, Will.
Oh, really?
we got Christmas music, ice skating down there, causing all sorts of noise.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So luckily, I don't know. I mean, we're not being sponsored by Adobe, but I'm using Premiere Pro.
Yeah.
And so far, it's pretty good. It can cut down the noise pretty well, but sometimes if the noise comes along with our voice, usually.
Have you tried the AI enhancer? It's a beta program that Adobe has. It's fantastic.
But it's audio only though, so I have to split it.
Oh, I didn't see.
Yes,
see, we record ours separately, and we already have it split.
Right. So it has that. I don't know whether it's the same quality or not, but they just release essential sound plugin or whatever on the Premiere Pro, and it has several built-in, supposedly AI do to enhance the voice and whatever. I haven't tried that to the fullest extent, so I'm looking forward to try it out and check it out.
Yeah, I would imagine pretty soon that feature will just be standard.
Yeah.
In all of the audio interface programs, that sort of AI noise filtration will just become a standard feature, which will be kind of cool.
Which is great too, because it pretty much democratizes. Is that the word? Democratizes. Yes, all this. Voices that we have in the community. So we want to have voices heard regardless of your point of view. And that's how I met or was introduced to Carson.
Yes.
Right.
It was.
And it's the organization that you're leading. It's called Bridge.
Oh, so I'm running the Point Park chapter of an organization called Bridge USA, which is a youth-led nonprofit that is trying to politically depolarize college campuses across the United States, and there are efforts being started in Europe and I believe in Africa as well.
Oh wow!
To have this also happen. The basic sort of I don't know if you call it a mission statement, but it's the idea that we cannot have a democracy in a healthy society if people cannot have constructive, respectful conversations with people that they disagree with.
Exactly. I think I heard that even Obama mentioned it, that it's democracy by in a sense that your ability or your willingness to talk to someone who you disagree with.
Yeah.
Right? So if you believe in democracy, then you have to engage or you have to talk and have a healthy and safe discussions with those who do not agree with you, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I believe that it's not happening. I mean, it happens, but I guess I don't know. I like to blame social media for it.
Trust me, I do too.
Okay.
I think that is probably. I can't throw a percentage. I don't have any data on this, unfortunately, at the moment. But it has done a lot of damage to my generation and to our sort of political climate.
Okay.
And quickly going back to what you said, I agree with you. That's the point of the mission with Bridge USA, I don't want to confuse people by throwing out too many names, but one of our partner organizations, Braver Angels, which you attended an event that we did with them, um, the co-founder of that organization, Braver Angels, in his book, he opens up with saying that, and again, I haven't exactly I've tested these a little bit, but he says that democracy is governing by talk. The point is to keep the conversation going, even if the outcomes seem undesirable, even if the conversation's going nowhere, even if it's painful, you have to keep it going. And then so democracy is governing by talk, adjustment. Mm-hmm. It's all about slowly adjusting things to keep up with the times and where we are in our society. And it's also governance by faith. You have to have faith in your elected officials, faith in your fellow American, in order to figure out all the problems that we're facing.
But that's the hard part, right? When you mention about, have faith in the politicians. And right now, people have faith in their own politicians and politicians that they are voted for, right? But these days, that's, it's really, really common that he's not my, whatever, the title, right? He's not my mayor, he's not my president, blah, 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 right? Which is, well, you can't release. I mean, when the election is done, whoever is the president is your president.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing because also, I guess going back to that book also is like there's this sense of fighting on Capitol Hill in Washington. There's this sense of fighting. It's also on social media. It's sort of embodied by the culture war. But there's an interesting thing where I believe it was after Kennedy got elected. I don't remember what the quote is, but it was like a quote from someone that said, well, I don't agree with him. I didn't vote for him, but I hope he does good for this country. And then there's a quote from Rush Limbaugh right after Obama gets elected that says, I hope he fails. Which is kind of where we're at. There's a lot of people out there that don't accept the outcomes of our elections. They don't accept all these things. And there's a lot of people out there that have faith in no politicians at all. And I, from time to time, I try not to fall into that because I think the one interesting thing that I've seen is that whenever the C-SPAN cameras are on in those meetings, our politicians are just doing it for the gram. They're just personalities. They're caricatures of the people that they claim to represent.
Okay.
And I've heard stories of when those cameras turn off, these people become reasonable again. So I have no faith in those people. I have no faith in, maybe this is cynical. I don't mean to sound too cynical, but I have trouble having faith in elected politicians that have turned themselves into media personalities and they have a brand, which is to fight the other guy. There's so many people that are elected officials, you've never heard their names. And they are co-authoring bipartisan bills on so many things that are genuinely helping everyday Americans. We don't know their names. You don't know any of these people.
Right.
And that's the tricky part, is that the people you can name in Congress right now are the people that are known for fighting.
Yes. And it seems that it's part of the entertainment that I know it's so easy to blame media, but I don't know how to call them otherwise, right? The media or the content providers or whoever that, it could be on the internet, could be on newspaper, could be in print, could be anywhere, but basically they want to sell, right? They want to sell their advertisement space, they want to sell whatever, right? So it's easy if it's just black and white. If it's easy if it's just A against B. So, and then just like in social media, if it's easy when you know that this A does or believes and blah, 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 blah. I mean, okay, if you want to be a supporter of them, then you get this market, you get these numbers, right? And then if you want to switch, then you get these numbers, right? Because if people said, oh, you do both sidism, then both sides hate you, right? Both sides don't want, to be your followers because they are, it's hard. It's so nuanced, right?
Yeah, there is a growing group of people in the middle there, though.
Yes.
That are. I do think that the tide is turning.
Unfortunately, the quiet ones.
Yeah, and that's the tough part too, is that we have this, and again, percentages. You could do the math. There's so many bots on social media, but you have this very small percentage of the voices, which may not even be real. We know that there's foreign influence, these bot farms. I think during 2020 there was a Black Lives Matter protest scheduled, and then right across the street there was like a Proud Boys rally, both organized by bots from another country.
Oh, really?
Stoking up division here. And so that's a battle we have to fight on all fronts, you know, however we can. But
was it proven though that they were run by bots, or?
Oh yeah, that one was. I mean, again, I wish I could, and I could try to Google it quickly. But yeah, I mean, there have been times where bots, foreign influences, have organized two sides of a conflict. They've done it, and these are not even real Americans that are doing this, and they're keeping us in this state of it's manufactured social division.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So how does that relate to your experience in college? Because you are the future generations. You know, we're oldies. We are relying on you guys to make a difference, or to to get us back to I don't know,
to correct course a little bit.
Correct course. Yeah, that's the right word.
Well, you know, in high school there was this may be a bit of a winding road. I'm going to try to get there as succinctly as possible. In high school, I was not politically conscious until my sophomore year of high school, which was 2017, 2018. I was in 8th grade whenever Trump got elected. Didn't pay attention to it then, stayed away from it. It didn't really enter my life freshman year of high school. Sophomore year, I was in an honors literature class where my teacher, who was wonderful, would every Friday we would read a news headline and we would have an open discussion about it in class. She never gave us her opinions. She let people be as open and honest as they wanted to be. And so politics slowly started to trickle into my life. And I realized that I was probably at the time a lean right, moderately conservative individual surrounded by a lot of progressives. I had a few conservative friends. We had conversations in private, not many in person, because it was overwhelmingly progressive. And so I was consuming all this conservative media that was talking about how much of a nightmare college campuses were, and don't get me wrong, there are some nightmare stories out there, and there are some real problems. But so I kind of walked into Point Park with this deal, like it's going to be very overtly progressive. It's going to be very, very unfriendly towards conservatives. When I got there, I found out that some of that was true. It was kind of a half-truth. Point Park is very progressive. Overtly progressive, in some areas maybe. Definitely unfriendly towards conservatives from what I have seen. But there's a lot of apolitical people at Point Park. Point Park's got a big sports communication program. In the media space, there's a lot of sports people. They don't want to touch politics. They just stay away from it. Whenever I table for my organization, there are so many people that say, oh, I don't really touch politics. And that's fine. And honestly, that's your right in a free society to not engage. As much as we want as many people to be engaged, that's also the other side of the coin, is that you have the right to not engage.
Exactly. It's part of free speech, to talk or not to talk.
Yeah. Free speech is, and the one thing I really try to do is I really try not to, you got to try to stay away from whataboutism, which is like, what about this side does it too kind of thing, right? And that can get you into some hot water with people, and people don't like that. And sometimes it's not helpful, but I really try not to go specifically after one ideological group, because in my brain, they are all functionally kind of the same thing. But this messaging on the left of silence is violence. There's maybe a circumstance or two in which that might be true, but then we're leaving out the fact that no, that is your right, whether we like it or not. You have to accept both sides of that. If you want to give people the right to speak, they're also going to have the right to not speak. That speech is not mandated, and if it was, that'd be a very bad idea, I think.
So other than getting involved during that, starting in that class, so is there any particular thing that makes you, okay, I'm in this, 100%. I'm going to put my face in front and to let other people know where I stand?
I don't think there was one particular moment. I think it was kind of a slow burn to the point where I got really fed up with the current state of the political discourse in the country and the interactions I was seeing with friends and with family. So I think it was kind of a slow burn. I had a very close, well, not a close friend at the time, but a person I was very close friends with,
Mm-hmm.
who I'm not friends with anymore. We kind of grew apart as we got into high school, but this was in my junior year, right whenever the BLM movement was really starting. I guess the summer of 2020, going into my senior year. There were some instances where I would bring up maybe a conservative counterpoint to the progressive arguments that were being made. I was called racist by a couple of people that knew me, people that know me for years, and they were like, "Oh, we know you're not an openly racist person, but you believe in a racist ideology," or whatever it was at the time. And so that was kind of a thing that really turned me away from progressivism a lot, which I have progressive views on some things. I've gone through a large political shift. I've kind of bounced back and forth, and I've settled into somewhere in the center now. But yeah, there were moments like that. There were moments, I was very and I got more conservative from my sophomore year to my senior year of high school. I got more conservative, and then
did you get to be more conservative because of the pushback, or because of the people calling you racist or whatever?
Yeah. I don't think it was genuine, because I'm not that conservative now. I have conservative viewpoints on issue by issue. I might be conservative on some things, but overall, I don't call myself a conservative. No. So I think it was just a reaction.
Right.
I do think a lot of what's happening is a reactionary game now. One side does the thing, the other side reacts, and
it's
just
aha moment. It's a gotcha moment. Oh, now I can label you this.
Exactly.
Once you say, "Oh, you vote for that guy," oh, you must be.
Yeah. And my vote I was eligible to vote in the 2020 election. My voter registration got messed up. So I went to the polls. They said, "You're not on here, can't vote."
Oh.
I would have and I'm not afraid to admit this. Now, I in my head I was gonna vote for Trump. That's where I was, because I thought Biden was not the right pick. I thought that, and again, I was a kid. I was 18. I had no idea how the world works. I have relatively zero knowledge as of how it works now. I'm 21. So this was not an informed, I would not call this an informed decision. It was a reactionary decision, I think, based on where I was at in high school with these people that I liked that were progressives. I was never willing to withdraw from a friend because of a political difference. Yeah.
Okay. It's brave of you to mention that who you would have voted, but I have to ask you this: if you were given a choice, if you knew what you know now in 2020, who would you have voted?
Third party.
Who was the third party then?
I don't remember who was it. So I would have written in a name. So like, if I knew if it was me now and this was 2020,
right?
I'd be writing somebody and or voting third party. I'd be, RFK Jr. is not perfect.
Yeah.
And also, just to make a blanket statement, I do not represent Bridge USA. I'm not a part of the national team. I'm a chapter leader.
He's a person.
My views, I have to just make that clear, though, because the things that I say, I don't want people to think Bridge USA is a multi-partisan organization. I have friends in Bridge USA that are very progressive, very conservative, that are centrists. The national team has a nice split. This is not a thing that's run by all progressives or all conservatives. There are apolitical, or there are sort of centrist and apolitical people on the national team, that kind of thing. But I probably would be writing in somebody like RFK Jr. Nikki Haley says some stuff that rubs me the wrong way. She also says some stuff that I appreciate. But at this point, she's in there with Vivek Ramaswamy. They're just having an insult game. They're just using each other as a springboard to insult. It's like, this is not what we need to be doing. And I would not have voted for Trump, because I don't think at that moment, when I was 18 back in 2020, I don't think I realized really how dangerous his rhetoric was for a society like ours. I don't get angry at people or shame people for liking Trump. There are some things that certainly confuse me, but this is not a situation where I'm shaming anybody. But I do think now I can't see myself voting for him or for a two-party candidate.
What were the things that confused you
about people that like Trump? I understand that he was sort of a middle finger to the establishment. To a certain extent, I can appreciate that. The establishment, and now let's think about this. Again, I was not politically conscious in 2016, but I have since gone back and done a bit of research. This was a country, this was an establishment that was going to offer us Jeb Bush versus Hillary Clinton again. This country was going to offer us another Bush versus another Clinton. That's like the system spitting in the face of Americans. It's like you have these two political families that have some very shady backgrounds just vying for power of the country every 4 years. Like, this is ridiculous. So it makes sense as to why someone like him was able to get elected. But and so I get that middle finger is something that may have seemed appealing to some people, and again, Trump did not, to be fair, I don't think that Trump really invented uniquely any of like the manifestation of his qualities, if that makes sense. Like his behavior and the results of that was not really anything new, but I think that he was sort of the catalyst for a lot of problems that had been existing in this country. And so I get confused whenever people so for example, the fighting. Like, fighting in the 1850s was a decade that led us to a civil war. Like, we have been more divided than we are now. We are facing a different version of the problem. And I do think that it has the potential to be as dangerous. Social media is a different monster that the 1850s did not have to deal with. They had to deal with bad press and with dishonest people, obviously. But we're dealing with something entirely different than that. But I guess my point is, I don't understand why people think the fighting is good at this point in time. Maybe in the beginning it was helpful to shake things up, but at this point, my question for Trump supporters would be, do you honestly think that the fighting is going to leave us better off or worse off with him in office again?
Yeah.
If more of the fighting, it was a great clip. He was on, I think Sean Hannity was interviewing him recently and was like, and Hannity brought receipts. It was crazy. He was like, these are all the people that you hired, and now these are all the horrible things you've said about them publicly. So why would any of them support you? And that's kind of what confused me about Trump, is like, his whole thing is, if you're not in lockstep with him, you just get it. He just buries you publicly. So that's one of the things that confused me a little bit at this point in time. Back in 2016, I understand that. I can understand how that would be, that shakeup. People might have viewed that as not even a good thing, but maybe a necessary evil kind of situation or something like that.
Yeah. I think it was it's similar but not the same, as people had hope when they voted for Obama. And then the other side of the aisle had hope when they voted for Trump.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Two kinds of different kind of hopes, but they're like anchoring on hopes that things will be different, right? And but nothing moved, right? Nothing's changed. So
no.
So and then you mentioned about the that people just want to fight. I think they want to fight because they want to win, right?
Yes.
And sometimes I hope. Well, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I doubt it myself that they actually believe that the best thing for a community is actually not to do that. But they can't do that because they just want to win. When they see that this is an opportunity to create chaos. This is an opportunity to put the other party in shambles and destroy themselves. Oh, let's follow this, these eight, this morons, and voted for Kevin McCarthy out, right?
Yeah.
Only those select few, and then the entire
triggered the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Isn't that insane?
Right, I mean, and then I don't know how many Democrats who followed those 5 or 8, right? 8 Republicans or 5 Republicans.
It was
and then
6. I believe it was 6.
It was 6, right?
Yes.
And then followed by the entire 200 plus
Yeah,
Democratic House of Representatives
Yeah.
joined them and then voted McCarthy out. And then he was
Yeah.
just dragging, and then until they had to vote somebody in because of the war in Gaza.
Well, they voted
Right.
someone in to fix the government shutdown, which they still haven't done, by the way. They passed another temporary funding bill till January 1st.
Yeah, that's
We're just putting Band-Aids on the wound.
Yeah, kicking the can down the road, right?
Yeah, we have to get a permanent. So my thought is like 3 strikes and you're out. Like if these people can't figure it out a third time, shouldn't we all take a look at that and see that this is not working for any of us?
But you can, because when we say should we take a look at, because by the Constitution, the we is the legislative to take a look at it, and it's
we the people should take a look at it,
and that is really a long game, right? I mean, because now we look at the followers, right? Why do these followers follow certain? No, it's not a belief. I don't want to say belief anymore. Sometimes it's just like a celebrity, right? Like just like you mentioned, it's Bush, it's Clinton. They're like a blue-blooded family.
Yeah,
in politics, right? And then Trump now he's a celebrity, and people, when they like or dislike something, they kind of want to have a celebrity right here. They don't want nobody, even though this nobody may have a great ideas, but I want to follow.
That's a potential. That maybe is a flaw in this current version of the American experiment. Like you said, is that what sells, and what sells is entertainment. It's fear. I feel like all of the incentive structures are just like upside down pyramids. Like the things that are valued right now in our society, especially in our discourse, are being the victim, being scandalized, being right all the time. Certainty is what's the word I'm looking for? It's like capitulation. It's like this situation where you have to just go with your side kind of thing, no matter what, because at least you're not the other people in the situation. And that's probably the most unhelpful thing, is just going with red.
Right.
Because the guy with the red next to his name says to do this, or the guy with the blue next to his name. Because what this does is it reduces our fellow Americans down to R's and D's, reds and blues.
Yes.
It's a binary system. It doesn't. And so whenever I first got to Point Park, I wasn't originally in this work. So I started off at the end of my first semester at Point Park. I forget exactly what happened. I wish I could remember exactly what it was. There was some interaction that was had with my friend Gavin Hosterman and I, who's kind of like my right-hand man. Well, that implies that I'm like above him, I guess. We're like partners in crime. We do all of our stuff together. He's the vice president of marketing for my Bridge USA chapter, and he's the one that produces our podcast. But something happened, and again, I wish I could remember exactly what it was. But we were like, man, we got to try to do something here. We got to try to encourage a different way of doing this. So right at the time, Andrew Yang, who was a Democratic candidate in the 2020 race, dropped out. It was October of 21, right toward the end of the year. Dropped out, started a new political party called the Forward Party. So Gavin and I jumped on that, and we had a Forward Party chapter at Point Park up until about last year. So that was kind of my start into getting into the world of politics. I was running a Forward Party chapter. I was technically the state lead. I was technically the lead person in the city of Pittsburgh, because no one else was here as an 18-year-old, which was very funny to me because I had no clue what I was doing. There was nothing in my brain that was like, people need to hear this. It was like I was just doing whatever I was recommended to do, essentially. But I found Bridge USA through the Forward Party, because those groups of people are friendly with each other. So that's kind of how I found Bridge USA. So I originally wasn't in the depolarization work. I was in fighting the two-party system work. And now I've kind of switched over to the depolarization thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of the two-party system. I don't imagine I'll vote for any of those candidates unless some serious changes happen.
Yeah. And also having a closed primary system, it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it's this.
Now I'm honestly I'm thinking like, okay, depending whether the ANC decides to have primary or not, and also who the candidates are for the primary for the Republican. Now I'm thinking that probably I should switch. I'm thinking really hard whether to switch from independent to one of those parties, depending on who I need to vote in or vote out, right? So if I really dislike certain candidate and I want to make sure that that guy or that gal, is not voted, probably I switch my party and then voted, okay, and then
Yeah. Well,
a
there's
month after and turn it back, and then switch back to independent.
yeah, there's also some people that will switch to the party that they don't want to vote
That's
for,
right.
and they'll vote in the more extreme candidate that they know that their guy can beat.
That's right.
That's the
good
system.
strategy.
I know people in my life that have done this, that have been like, yeah, I'm a big Trump guy, so I actually vote in the Democrat primary for this candidate because they're way more extreme, and I think that we can beat him.
Yeah, it's a numbers game.
It's just a number, and when and that's a great way of thinking about it. It is just a numbers game to some of these people. When you look at our political system like a numbers game, we have a problem, guys. We might have a little bit of a problem whenever we're looking at the outcome of the future of this country. The most ambitious, as Bridge USA CEO says, as Manu Meal says, we are living in the most ambitious experiment in democracy in the history of our species.
Let me switch a screen right now. We have
let's pull it because I realized I've name dropped Bridge USA and I've sort of explained it, but I've also haven't really gone into depth as to like who we are and what we do. So that might be a good idea to jump over to this.
Yes, and also explain. Well, we already mentioned a little bit about your involvement, right? But then see the acceptance. I like to know the acceptance from your peers.
So here we are. And so what you're looking at here is, so actually I'm somewhere in this picture that is behind.
Oh, wow.
Here, because this is from Summit.
Yeah.
This is from Summit this year, which was in April. And I know some people. I have some friends that I can see in this half the picture. I'm on their side. I'm completely gone. I'm behind the blue half of this screen.
Probably you're behind the P right there. Now it's
like I'm toward the back. I'm actually like right below where media. I'm kind of right beneath that.
Oh, okay. So all right.
I'm somewhere right in there.
So guys, if you because some of you just listen to the radio, to the audio, so you can go to bridgeusa.org.
.org. Yes.
Yeah. So this is the splash page.
And this is so that's a picture. So if I'm remembering correctly, there was about 120 of us there.
Where was it?
This year. This was in Orlando, Florida.
Oh, wow.
In early February.
Oh, that's nice.
The organization flew out 3 people from each chapter. They had 3 spots.
That's like a blast from Pittsburgh, like in dead winter.
Oh yeah, in the middle of exactly middle of winter. Yeah, and now funnily enough, so they're experimenting because the organization is so young. So I guess for some backstory on the organization, the CEO and the COO were at Berkeley. Students at Berkeley. I hope I'm getting all the details of this right. As far as I know, this is the story.
It's okay, guys. We're human.
Yeah, they were at Berkeley in 2017 whenever Milo Yiannopoulos came to speak on campus.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if anyone listening remembers. I don't, because it was 2017. I may have seen this on social media. I don't exactly remember. But there was a lot of violent protests.
Yes.
About that event. I do believe some things were set on fire. Some windows were broken. I think people might have been hurt. I don't exactly remember. And
that event had to be canceled.
It did, yes. And so that was a big thing. And the CEO, like I said, Manu Meal, he's a great guy. I respect the hell out of him. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear on this.
Yes, you can.
He is so he was a pre-med student, not at all interested in politics. The COO, Ross Irwin, they've both been on my show. So you can, and I do recommend. I don't mean to do a cheap plug early, but
it's all right. You could.
They're great guys, and I do recommend going to watch that episode because if you want to get an idea, a more holistic view of sort of who started this thing, those guys are great, and they're 24 and 25 years old right now, so it's all youth led. But anyway, Ross Irwin, who's the COO, was a business major. As far as I know, also not super interested in politics, but said we can do better than this. We got to see if people can still sit down
Right.
and have a conversation with each other about this really contentious thing.
Right.
So I believe it was the next day, or it was like within a week, they organized an event on campus and they got people to actually show up just to see if they could still talk to each other constructively. Turns out they could. So they kept doing it. And it grew and it grew and it grew. And now it's a national organization. I think over 25 chapters in over 20 states. That's a bit of a generalization, but like it's all over the country now.
So who funded them?
I believe it's a lot of, so as far as I know, it's a lot of independent donations. Like donations are a big thing.
So let's see. Probably
there may be a thing on here about the actual funders. I believe the Fentner Institute is one of them. Yeah, there we go. You just scroll up real quick. Scroll up. The people can see that, like the number of chapters and everything that we've got. Yeah, there's a donation link there for as far as funding goes. But yeah, here we go. 50. We're at 50. Holy cow, I was way off. And so we also have high school chapters too. That's also awesome. A thing that started recently. I have friends that are some chapter directors for the high school stuff. But so that's kind of where we're at. We have 50 chapters. There's going to be a lot more than 120 people at Summit this year. I would imagine that. Yeah, so there we go. Bridge Africa. So those are like the links to get to sort of the work that's happening abroad.
So Bridge Africa, that's wonderful. And it all started from Bridge USA, you're saying?
Yeah, it all started from just a couple of people. Just asking the question of is there a different way to do this? Is there a different way to do the political? Yeah, so this is great. This is a picture. Okay, so that guy right in the middle, that's Ross Irwin right there. Okay. And the guy beside him is Manu Meal.
All right.
That's from years ago. They look so well, not so different, but yeah, that's an older photo. Well, they still look young. They still are young. But okay. And then, do I know any other people? That guy that guy right there next to Manu. I feel so bad. I'm forgetting his name. But I've seen him on a couple of Zoom calls. These other people, I'm not sure exactly who they are.
Okay. Unfortunately, there's no caption or alt, so I can't really tell you.
Yeah. No. I mean, so these so. There is sort of advisory boards for this thing. Here we go. See, there's some. Yeah, so I do believe the Fetzer Institute is one of the funders.
Okay.
And the Arthur Davis. Yeah. So those are. I wish I would have brought my book from Summit because it had all the funders in the back of the book.
And Rockefeller Brothers Fund. Okay.
Yeah, and so, oh gosh, there's a lot here. I'm trying to introduce your listeners to this world. If you scroll up real quick for something, down real quick, just down to right. Down a little more. There we go. This here, the Listen First Project. So the Listen First Coalition is a group of organizations of bridge building, which is the movement. It's called political bridge building. That's kind of what we're doing. Listen First is a group of, the Listen First Coalition is a group of organizations that are all working together on this 500 organizations. So Bridge USA is one of those. Braver Angels is one of those. I mentioned them briefly before. If any of your listeners have heard of All Sides, that's a company that I interned with, and that I have a couple of friends that work there that have been on my show. But so that's the thing. So if anyone wants to go to that website, I do believe it's just listenfirstproject.org. That's sort of, that can be your portal into all of these organizations. I cannot name you all 500, obviously. I've only worked with 3 or 4 of these organizations. I hope to work with more as I get older, but that's kind of where we're at with that. Sorry, I hope I'm not jumping around too much for your listeners.
No, it's great.
I'm trying to just introduce them to this world here.
Yeah, wonderful. So
mainly what our work looks like on campus on sort of a day-to-day basis. And I don't want to say day-to-day. Well, this is kind of work that we do every day. But, and I guess I need to get all this in order in my head. So like so there's sort of a formula Bridge USA has put together. Everything's data-driven. They put together a formula for college chapters for how to run a successful chapter. These are sort of some things that are being tested. That formula is quite literally changing bi-weekly. It is being adjusted all the time. But the sort of formula goes every other week. You host a discussion, you choose a topic, you advertise for it, you try to get people out, and you host these discussions. These discussions could look like just people sitting at a table having a discussion. There's some chapters that have done sort of arts and crafts kind of things. Plants and politics is one where you make a little succulent, the little fake plants for your dorm, and then you talk about whatever the issue is that is at hand. Like pizza and politics. So it's sort of a thing where we're trying to create a sense of community here. It's not all just about politics at the end of the day. We have Bridge USA discussions about cultural things, about societal problems. Sometimes politics mixes into those, but not all the time. And so that's kind of what we're going for. So it's not always a super serious thing. Those difficult conversations need to happen. Sometimes they do happen, but other times we want to have fun with people. We want to bring people out, get people to meet each other, so that, and I guess in my eyes, the goal of that is realizing that that person on the other side that I've been told is evil or ignorant or wrong or misguided it's just another person over there, and they're just trying to do their best in life because there's no rule book for any of this. And I feel like that's one of the problems, is that when we're looking at these people across a disagreement, we're trying to, I don't know if it's arrogance, I don't know what it is, but it's like
a desire to win.
It's a desire to win, and it's a desire to be right.
Right. I think you mentioned that.
Being wrong.
Being right.
It's all about being right. It's about being right. And so, so that's kind of how it goes. And then we have so there's another great event that we have that I have not done at Point Park, because some of these events do require larger turnouts.
Yes.
To sort of become, so Pitt does this event. They've done it a couple times, I'd imagine. It's called Bridge the Gap. It's really cool. It's, I guess the number of tables is not, there's no specific number, but like at Summit, there were 10 tables in this big conference room that we were all in. There's 10 seats at each table. There are 4 blue seats and 4 red seats. Those are not for political affiliation. That is for the purpose that you sit down at a table for 15 minutes and you discuss the topic that is at that table. Abortion, gun rights, free speech, and censorship, something like that. You discuss that with the group for about 15 minutes, and you have a person there to guide with questions.
So there's a moderator for those topics.
Yes.
Okay.
At the end of the 15 minutes, everyone in the blue chairs gets up and they rotate to the table to their left. The red seats go to the table to the right. So you're constantly being filtered in with new people talking about new topics for about an hour and a half or however long that runs. So that's another great event that we do. I would love to do it at Point Park, but
so why not?
Point Park's a different monster. It's a different. It's not Pitt, I'll tell you that. Point Park is, and actually just very quickly before I jump into that, I want to just wrap this up real quick. Right. After all these events are done, every college chapter has an advisor, which is a member of the national team that is their avenue for. That's essentially your communication with the national team. There's a chapter form that I fill out every 2 weeks before that call. It is how many discussions have you had? How many people show up? How many people were new? How many people are a member of your executive board? What was the topic? What are you having problems with? And all that data from all those 50 chapters are compiled together, and they are sent out to us, and the national team is taking all that into account, changing up the formula for how to keep this stuff fresh and relevant and successful for whatever moment we're in. But going back to Point Park is something different. For those who don't know, it's a very small liberal arts. Well, this is a lot of Pittsburgh viewership, I would imagine, on this show.
Yes.
Right in downtown, it's a liberal arts college, a performing arts college mostly. It's kind of off the wall. Point Park has a really big conservatory, like I said, performing arts college. We've got dance, musical theater.
Yeah, it has its own theater. It's beautiful theater.
Yeah, theater productions, stage design, things of that nature. A lot of dance, if I didn't mention that, right? Dance, dancing, acting, musical theater, stage production, that kind of thing. It's got a huge media program. Broadcast production, which is what I'm majoring in, sports communication, sports journalism. There's a big media space. Oddly enough, a really big national security program, or a successful national security and intelligence program. and just some other sort of niche things. So Point Park's kind of a very off-the-wall school. There's about 22,000 students on campus.
Oh, really? That many? Oh, wow.
It's not that many though. I mean, there's only, and then there's about another 1,000 to 2,000 that are online graduate programs, things of that nature. But on campus, we're looking at only about 2,000 people.
Oh.
So whenever a chapter like Pitt is bringing in 25, 30 people for an event with a student population of 25,000, if we're looking proportionally at Point Park, I'm only bringing in about 3 or 4 people per event, which is kind of the frustrating part right now. So that's kind of why you can't do Bridge the Gap. And not to get away from bridge building too much, but from what I've observed, Point Park got really wrecked by COVID. The social life really died down. A lot of collaboration between students stopped, from what I can tell. The sense of community got kind of knocked out of sync, I guess. There's a big hustle culture at Point Park. Everyone's working 1, if not 2 jobs, and they're going to class, and they have their own side project, and they're doing all these things. I'm one of those people that's doing way too many things. So that's kind of a situation where I'm having trouble getting people to come out, not necessarily because they don't want to engage with other people politically, but it's because, I would, but I have work.
Right.
I would go, but I've got this thing I got to go to.
Or some of them go home, right?
Right.
They're commuters, right?
5 o'clock hits, and I don't know what the number is. A large number of those students are gone for the day, and they're not coming back. And on the weekends, good luck getting them to come here for anything. It's kind of how it is. So I would love to do a Bridge the Gap event, like I mentioned, that round table rotating discussion thing. But you do kind of need to bring in, 15 to 20 people to make that happen, for that to be a viable event, or more. ASU brings in 50 people for an event like that. That's kind of what you want.
Yeah.
So we're kind of limited to the events that we can do at Point Park, because getting people to come out, every single club at Point Park is struggling. There's not a single club at Point Park that is not struggling with membership and retention issues, with the caveat that unless they pour literally thousands of dollars into an event, that's the only way that clubs at Point Park are getting anywhere, is if...
Why? I mean, why money matters?
Because they're giving away a lot of free stuff.
Oh,
it's free food. It's free. It's a raffle. We're giving away an air fryer. We're giving away this and that. And we have a decent amount of chapter funding. We're not I would not call us underfunded for what we're trying to do, but I can't pour $1,000 into any singular event. It's not a thing that we can do.
So is it possible for you to collaborate? There are smaller schools like probably Chatham, Robert Morris, or Carlo.
None of those have Bridge USA chapters currently. Getting one of those started, that's certainly a possibility.
Right.
But right now, the only 2 schools in the area are Pitt and Point Park are the only 2 chapters that we've got in the Pittsburgh area. Yeah.
So are they open to collaborate with you?
Of course, yeah. I'm actually
just like bring your students, or bring your peers.
Yeah,
to
and
their event.
That's what we tried to do with the event that you were at, that Braver Angels debate that we did, but didn't get a big turnout for that. I guess for Point Park, that turnout was actually not so bad. But I'm going to hang out with the Pitt chapter president after this.
Oh,
I'm good friends with him. Yeah, so we collaborate on stuff frequently. They're so busy. They've got so many. I mean, they are literally doing the bi-weekly events, graphics, lots of social media advertising, because their executive board has 14 people on it. We have 3. And Caitlin, who's our vice president of outreach, lives an hour away. So, coming on campus to me, obviously, and I don't blame her for that. That's a very difficult thing to justify, driving an hour in, for a thing that could be on the phone. So that kind of thing. So it's just, Point Park's a different situation. I don't know if I'll really be able to crack the code with it before I leave. I'm certainly trying to figure it out. But it is a situation where a different formula is going to have to be invented first, because I am friends with some other smaller chapters, and they're facing the same problem.
Okay, so listening to fellow members from Bridge, let's just narrow it down to Bridge Pitt. Bridge is at Pitt, and Bridge is at the Point Park. So what kind of issues that they are worried about right now?
Pitt?
Or both of them, Pitt and Point Park. In regards to this discussion that you guys are having, in the context of Bridge USA.
Yeah, so at Point Park, the biggest thing that I see is, like you said, a lot of apolitical people at Point Park. The people that are political, a lot of them skew progressive from what I see. I'm sure there are some conservatives in the School of Business. I've met a couple of them, but it's definitely significantly outweighed progressive. There's a lot more progressive than conservatives for the people that are political. The biggest problem that I see is, so at Pitt right now, you're looking at, in the month of October, 5 pro-Palestinian protests in the month of October. You've got, and I'm not jumping into that topic. I'm not picking a side there or anything. I'm saying you have that situation. So Pitt's a situation where you have a lot more, because you have a lot more students, you have a lot more active people that are willing to go out there and protest, to tear down the flyers or put them up, or, you have a lot of, they also have a Turning Point USA chapter, which is the conservative organization. I think it's the biggest as far as I know. I don't want to call them the conservative version of what we do because the missions are very different. They're the conservative activism group on college campuses, I believe is what you'd call it. I know some people in Turning Point USA. I'm friendly with them, but obviously they have very different goals than we do. But so that's kind of what Pitt's looking at. Is they're looking at, they have a college Republicans, they have a college Democrats. They're trying to make sure that when these people engage, they do whatever they can to help those conversations go smoothly. They organized a debate between those two groups last year, which I do believe went very well. But we're dealing with something very different. We're dealing with the situation where we have no college Republicans, we have no college Democrats. There are two political organizations on Point Park. I ran both of them. One of them's dead. One of the Forward Party chapters, I'm done with the Forward Party. I still support them. I would still be, I don't chat with anyone from there anymore, but I'm not actively running that anymore. So at the time when both of these were active, I was running the only two political organizations on campus. So that was kind of the problem we were facing, was that the university doesn't actively provide a space for these conversations to happen, which I think is...
Can you clarify on that? They don't provide space. I mean, I'm sure that you need to ask for permission or permit to exist. Is that what you're saying, or what?
Oh no, I'm saying, like, in my eyes, as much as I love this organization, it's changed my life, it's given me purpose, I am forever indebted to the people that have started this movement. We shouldn't have to do this. In a healthy society, there should not be need for 500, like you said on the Listen First, 500. We should not need 500 organizations telling the country to fix this problem. It should not be happening. In the healthy society, maybe Bridge USA exists, but it should not be as needed as it is right now. So what I mean by that is the university does not organically, on its own, provide a place for civil discourse. This is not a thing that they provide. So we're trying to provide it. So yes, I have to go through all the proper steps to be a registered organization. Obviously, I have to go through all the steps, Bridge USA as well. But what I mean by that is, like, I'm just trying to normalize. I think at Point Park, if there is ever going to be a successful Bridge USA chapter at Point Park, whatever successful looks like, I don't know if I'll see it. If someone picks this thing up after I leave, then they might have a chance at seeing it. But I think what we have to do first is we have to just start normalizing this stuff. We have to normalize these kind of discussions so that people will want to take time and go out of their way to attend, and to realize that this is something that we should be doing every 2 weeks. We should be, or at least once a month, we should be doing this. Or whenever a problem arises, we should have the tools in our toolbox to handle this kind of thing. But right now, I'm not taking shots at Point Park, obviously. They've got so many things to worry about, but this is not an area that they have focused on. So I think that's kind of what I'm dealing with at Point Park, and what my executive team and I are dealing with, is that we got to just normalize it first.
Right.
So that it can grow in the future.
Right. I think I completely agree with you, and you also pointed out that there are 500 organizations out there basically doing band-aid work, right?
Yeah,
Because
it's like,
the system itself, they're supposed to give space, or they actually should encourage discussions
yeah.
on all of these hard topics, but
Hmm.
no, that's why this 500 organizations exist, because they want, like you said,
Hmm.
normalize that, we should have this discussion about
Yeah.
hard topics, and agree to disagree. It's okay,
Yeah.
right?
I
That
mean,
it doesn't have to be one winner at the end of the day, right?
this is maybe a bad analogy, but can you imagine if you needed 500 band-aids? It'd be like, why do I need this many? Why do I imagine if you had 500 cuts and you had to put 500 band-aids? I don't know if that's a perfect analogy, but it's like, that's so many organizations. That's how bad it's gotten for some
Right,
people
right.
in
And
some of those
the
situations.
funding to fund those 500 band-aids, right? Rather than probably,
Yeah, and you got to pay for all those band-aids.
probably there's a systemic problem. So those injuries, those smaller
Yeah,
cuts do not happen to begin with, right?
yeah, yeah. And so that's I've always said, and again, I don't, I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm
Yeah,
experimenting with lots of
yeah,
ideas, but I'm saying I think in my ideal world is that I'm not doing this forever. Is that in X number of years, if we can somehow, and again, we're always going to go through oscillating. I'm going to name drop another book that I thought was great. If anyone knows who Tim Urban is, he's the biggest blogger in the world. He runs the blog Wait But Why. It's a great blog. He wrote a book that came out this year called What's Our Problem? And in What's Our Problem, in the opening chapter, he sort of outlines essentially the problem that we're dealing with is that we're dealing with a very technologically advanced society that should be looking at the world of politics very differently than we do. And we're having a little bit of a temper tantrum. He was like, when I look around at the society around me, I see a poopy pants 4-year-old that dropped their ice cream on the sidewalk. It's like we're floundering kind of. We're really struggling to figure this thing out. But he made a really interesting point that whenever a society has a lesson in technology, it's permanent. We will never go back to brick phones and we will never go back to any of this stuff. Bluetooth is never going away. There's just going to be a better version of Bluetooth in X number of years. But lessons in wisdom do not stick. This is the idea of like, learn history so you don't repeat it kind of thing. History is kind of a cycle.
right.
And so obviously, there may be a time in 10 years whenever this work is not needed as badly. And then in 10 years later, it might be needed more again. But I think if we could find a way to stabilize the situation, then ideally I'm not doing this forever. And I go find something else to do with my time. Because again, in a healthy society, there should not be this many people that are all raising the alarm that we need to start working to fix this kind of problem.
Right, right. I think that's the beginning of a lot of industrialization complex, in which things that we do that's originally to band-aid something, it becomes an industry. It becomes that something that people are like clinging on. It's like, okay, this things needs to grow. These
Yeah.
things need to be people probably will come up with a metric. Okay, this year we have 500 organization. Next year we have to be 1,000 organization.
Yeah,
This one has to be 2,000.
Eventually, there's too many. Eventually, there cannot be 5,000 organizations in the Listen First Coalition. It's too many voices it's too many organizations.
Right.
You need those organizations to be better funded. You need their reach to be increased. I mean, who knows?
And also have the right incentives, right? And we
Yes.
mentioned that, because the incentives are to grow this organization to be a 2,000 organization. Okay, I think you're missing a point. That we have to build organizations such that it's not 500. The goal probably next year we should be 250. 50,
who knows?
25, right? I mean, where are the trouble spots, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not all of the, and this is whether this is unfortunate or it's fortunate, I don't know. Not all of those organizations are going to stick around forever. That number is going to obviously change, but I think it does. The problem, the one of my big problems with the situation that we're in, especially in the culture war, is there's a great quote that right now in our society we have too many anarchists and not enough architects. We have too many people saying the institutions are broken, the culture war is broken, let's tear it all down, let's abandon the whole thing. Why would you even engage with those people? They're saying whatever, and they're crazy, and why would you give them any time? We don't have enough people saying, no, we need, because there is a lot of institutional distrust in this country. My generation, particularly, we're very distrustful of institutions, and I think it is because a lot of them have failed us in areas where we really needed them to succeed. So, in a sense, I think one of the things that gives me hope about this movement is that we need to strive to be architects. We need to build these organizations, and we need to have them grow, and we need to be very responsible with what goes on within them. We need to build them into these sort of institutional places that can be trusted and that can provide this service to the country whenever the country really needs it. There's so many people now that are just worried about tearing the thing down because it's broken, and not enough people looking at the fact that we can build better institutions without necessarily tearing the old ones down. We can just build, and that's maybe a little bit of the free market kind of idea. You don't like the institutions, go build your own.
Yeah. Or,
kind of
or the emotion is so high, they're so upset that, to build, to invent, or, you can mention like either you tear down or you build something new. Building something new is a second step. It's an afterthought, right? Whatever you see is something that you dislike. We just want to get rid of it. Right?
It's
right. I think after we think about it, well, you still probably it's a different form, but you still need this. You can't really, not have that kind of, for example, check and balance, for example, right?
No, I mean, and things you have to build the better institutions before you get rid of the old ones, right? Listen, institutions are made of people. There may be a time whenever some of these organizations falter. Like it's not impossible for any of these organizations to go through hiccups because they are made of people, and people are going to make mistakes. But it's this idea, like, we have to start to build a sense of trust. We have to start to build a sense of community. We have to get ourselves back to that place. I'm actually, truth be told, I'm actually a person that is, as important as politics are, I find them incredibly boring. I'm very bored by the idea of discussing tax codes and trade deals and foreign policy, and it's all very boring to me, all of it. Even the culture war stuff I'm kind of bored of at this point. And that's actually a surprisingly large number of people inside of Bridge USA. There's a lot of people here that are not poli-sci majors. These are not people that are going into the world of politics. These are business majors. These are STEM majors that have all just become so fed up with the sense that we have all these sort of problems that are converging. We have a loneliness crisis in this country that's pretty bad, especially among men. We have a loneliness crisis. We have a meaninglessness crisis that is for everyone. Everyone has all of this energy. They have all this anger, and they're directing it towards things that are not going to directly benefit them or their communities. We're getting angry about a conflict halfway across the world we have no control over. And I'm not saying don't pay attention. I'm not saying you can pay attention, you can have your opinions, you can do all that stuff. But whenever that becomes the pinnacle of what you are angry at and where you're directing all of your energy, I look at that as there's more constructive places to put that. And you can make the world a better place in your backyard. And then eventually you might get to the point where you can help those people halfway across the world that are suffering. Obviously you feel for them, but that's a situation where I'm actually very bored by it. I want the people that care to actually be able to do something with politics and not just fight each other over it.
Right. So, yeah, I believe that it's because of the incentive system, right?
Yeah, I mentioned that before. Yeah, upside down triangle. It's all backwards.
Yeah, it's all backward, and
Yeah.
and right now, unfortunately, for those who benefit, um, who benefit from this current system, doesn't want to change the system, because
No.
they like to stay winning, right? They want to be
Yeah.
they want to be the big kahuna always, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they don't want to change. And they said, why do I need to change the system if then I'll be number 2 or I'll be number 10? No, I don't want to. I want to stay on top. I want to stay to
Yeah.
be the 1%, right? So, or either in power or in wealth. So,
Yeah, that is the unfortunate part, is that we are kind of up against a system that has a lot of big money, a lot of lobbying, a lot of it's got a lot of momentum behind it. I do think that it can be fixed. I don't know exactly what that process looks like, but yeah, I mean, and even at a smaller level, even within the culture war, you have these people on social media that have either unknowingly or willingly engage in the same system that they rail against. These people on Instagram that are like, oh, it's all of the insert group, whatever it is. And then you look at why, and you look at why they're angry at those people. Well, it's because those people said the same thing about them. And then it's just it's a reactionary cycle, where all we do is we get more polarized, we get more angry at each other. Those people are unfortunately making a lot of money off of doing that. Some of these political talking heads on social media and on YouTube are just, they're profiting off of demonizing other people that they should be at the least constructively engaging with, and at most actually working together to solve their problems.
Right.
But it's like those people I get really confused with. And I know some of those people too, and I like some of those people. Like, they're my friends, and it's like, well, why are you are engaging in the system that you, on the flip side, are saying, oh, I hate that it's this way. Look, all these XYZ group is being demonized and discriminated against, and I'm talking in a political sense. And it's like, well, it's because you've taken the low road along with everyone else that you're fighting against and with. So that part is also confusing to me.
Yeah. So, in regards to the general election next year, so what do you think matters the most for you and your peers? I know that I'm talking to you, Carsen, as an individual, and his whatever he says is his own opinion. He doesn't represent all those generations, right? But what do you
when you say peers, isn't like just my generation?
Just people that you know, or people that you interact with, either within Point Park, or your high school friends, or Bridge Pittsburgh friends, or Bridge USA. Your network, basically your circle of influence.
Sure. Well, for me, I think the biggest issues are we seem to have gotten ourselves into a new Cold War. I'm not so convinced that the first Cold War ever really ended. I think it just took a little bit of a lunch break, and now it's back. That's very concerning to me. There seems to be an attitude in this country among the people that are running it that we seem to just be headfirst into a situation where it looks to me, and again, I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in geopolitics. I'm not an expert in anything, really, just to be truthful to you people. So take all of this with a grain of salt. This is kind of what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
The stage seems to be set for some sort of global conflict. And right now, our leaders don't seem to be too interested in de-escalating, and neither does anyone else. So that to me is pretty concerning. I don't like. I'm not a fan of the military-industrial complex. I don't like the continuous cycles of war that we're put into in this country. As far as like interventionism goes, and as far as helping other countries goes, that's a different conversation. I haven't really fully done the issue with that one. But that's very concerning. So to me, if there's a candidate saying, hey, we're going to get ourselves out of this, we're going to try to de-escalate this global conflict, we're going to get like, listen, as much as I don't like Trump didn't get us in any wars. And that's and I appreciate that from him. Now, there's foreign corruption, there's all these other things. You could chalk up all these reasons as to why he didn't get us into foreign wars, some of which are probably not good, and that's totally fair argument. But to me, if there's a candidate saying, and I do know a lot of friends that are feeling this, I think there is a general sense among my generation that these wars are, the people that are affected by these wars are not the people in this country making a lot of money off of them. It's the people, it's innocent people in those countries that are being killed. Mm-hmm. So that's a big thing for me, is I would like to see a candidate say, hey, we got to try to de-escalate the situation. We have to try to get into rooms with world leaders again. We have to try to at least create, even if that sense of trust and humanity, even if it is kind of fake.
Why did you say that? If it's kind of fake. Just to provide some...
Just to provide the fact that that's a human.
Assurance that...
Sure, like, that's the thing is, like, I wonder if the situation of geopolitics globally, I wonder if there is that sort of, just the idea of being, like, Trump going to visit Kim Jong-un. I wonder what that did for the world stage and for the relationship with those two countries. Even if both of these guys know that this is kind of BS, right, and this is kind of a thing where our interests aren't completely aligned, but let's go shake the hand, let's go. It's kind of like fake it until you make it.
Put it
like,
up, right?
Yeah, like even if at the and again, maybe this doesn't work. It just in my head, it's like, I think that you got to get in the room with some of these world leaders again to try to at least discuss the situation. I know President Xi Jinping came to San Francisco, and Gavin Newsom cleared all the homeless people out, which was, and then just openly admitted it. Oh yeah, he was like, yeah, of course we cleared all the homeless people.
He openly admitted it?
Oh yeah, it's hilarious. I mean, he's something else, man. He's something else. It's hilarious. He's like ruined the greatest state in the union. It's honestly, it's hysterical to me. San Francisco's a dump. I mean that. Like San Francisco, they had a poop map.
Have you been there?
No, but have you seen this poop map that they have?
No.
Somebody made an app in San Francisco to report human fecal matter on the streets, and in one day the app crashed because there were so many reports. I swear to God, this is all real. But so President Xi Jinping comes to San Francisco, and Newsom clears out all the homeless people, and then he goes, of course I cleared them out. What do you mean? Of course that's what this is. He said they're saying the quiet part out loud now, these people. It's crazy. But so I'm saying, him coming here to talk to President Biden, even if both of those guys know this is BS, even if we know that China is currently playing a game, and the game is called Try Not to Piss Off the Rest of the World, Impossible Edition. They cannot do it. They're redrawing maps. You see the map that they redrew a map. China redrew a map. They claimed part of India. They claimed Taiwan. They claimed part of Siberia. They pissed off everyone. Even Putin was like, you can't just go...
Are you serious?
Swear to God, they dropped a new map where they took over a huge part of the South China Sea that's international water.
Okay,
they took over Taiwan.
Yes.
They took a part of India. They took a part of Siberia, and the UN's like, you can't do it. But I do think that there is probably, it probably does something. I've been going on about this point for too long, but it's like I do think, so that's important to me. We got to de-escalate this global conflict. We cannot walk ourselves into a war.
Basically, yeah, the world is getting warmer.
The world's getting warmer, and the weapons are pretty scary, and AI is definitely one of them. And so I just think, I'm going to bring up the book again. Tim Urban makes the point that right now, our society and all the other societies of the world are like people walking up a mountain towards a bright future. As you get higher up the mountain, the steeper the drop gets, and the narrower the ledge gets.
Yes.
A fall 200 years ago meant, it meant a war that was fought with muskets and cannons and wooden ships, and the guns took 10 minutes to reload. That was the situation. So a war, as devastating as it was, there was no threat of an entire country being wiped off the face of the map or an entire city being leveled.
Or the entire world.
Or the entire world being leveled.
Yeah.
But in this situation now, we're looking at, okay, a drop now is devastating. I mean, it puts us back in the Stone Age if we survive it, assuming a thermonuclear war breaks out, right? So that's concerning to me. You got to stop that. Other issues that are on the ticket for 24, for me, I think the economy kind of just does whatever it wants, to be frankly honest. We love to give the president credit for the economy, but it kind of just does the oscillating thing where gas is really expensive, not so much anymore, or this kind of thing, right? Groceries are expensive, not so much. So I don't know how much credit the president gets for the economy, but if things could get a little cheaper, that would be nice. So oddly enough, in both of these situations, I'm kind of looking at a conservative candidate here. Again, not that conservatives are synonymous with a better economy. It's not necessarily true, but right now the GOP is in this kind of isolationist mindset. That to me, and I'm not completely for isolationism. I do think there are some situations in which, yes, America has to go out there and, we have to, I don't know about world police. We were the world police in Iraq for 20 years and 1.5 million innocent people died. So it's all a very gray area. I'm not all for isolationism. I'm not all for completely going out there and trying to fix every single feasible problem we can look at, because we don't have, it's not going to work, I don't think. So, but yeah, I know. I mean, like, abortion laws, state by state, are a big one. Ever since Roe v. Wade got overturned, I feel like our society's paying a lot more attention to Supreme Courts. I think the long game that the conservatives played with the Supreme Court with getting Roe v. Wade overturned really made people take a second look at state Supreme Courts and the federal Supreme Court, as in, hey, maybe they didn't see this coming, that you can play the long game with this thing and you can get something pretty big like that done. So I think that's probably an important thing. For my conservative friends, it's probably, I'm trying to think of like the different people that I know in my circle. Climate change is obviously a big one. I have, the president of the Pitt chapter is a climate scientist. He's not, he's kind of he's maybe like a lean left centrist kind of guy. Not super down with the current climate orthodoxy that's going on, but he's like, yeah, it's a serious problem. We have to take it seriously. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at. We're looking at most of the usual problems,
right.
For the progressives, is going to be things like gun reform, abortion protection, marijuana legalization. For conservatives, it's going to be fixing the economy. It's going to be, banning abortion. It's kind of going to be the opposite of all those things or whatever it might be. But I'm kind of frightened looking at the world stage right now. It's a little spooky.
Yeah. So
for sure.
All right, and unfortunately, that's where we are, right? The politics situation, the global politics as well, and it's kind of related to people and desire to win. So it's kind of scary that the powerful wants to keep on winning or wants to win again. And the individual person also wants to win, right? So it's like from the top all the way to the bottom, they want to have this desire to always win. Yeah. And when you join a certain circle, your silo, and on social media, you have that dopamine. You have that, oh, these people always agree with me. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's an interesting thing. So I think it's really funny. I don't know if you know Michael Che is. Michael Che is a comedian. He was on SNL. He has a really great bit that I love where he's like, I heard yesterday that someone on the news was like, we owe China $13 trillion. And he goes, who's we? I don't owe them $1, right? Like, this is ridiculous, right? Like, it's the same thing for wars. It's like, I don't want war with anybody, and I bet neither does the majority of this country. So someone made a great suggestion, I think. Let's get Dana White in here, and let's put on a UFC event in LA. And we're going to have Trump, we're going to have Biden fight Xi Jinping. And that's how wars are going to be settled now. right?
Yeah,
No more.
yeah,
no.
or probably to be fair, who's your chief joint of staff?
Sure,
against
yeah.
the
Like, can we have
president
these
of China?
people?
I mean, the chief journal in China.
Can wars just be? Because then think about this. I have no confidence in Biden in a ring against anybody, really. So all of a sudden, so now if that's the
elderly
rule,
abuse.
if that's the exactly, I think it's. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't hate Biden. He's done some stuff that I think is good. It's a mixed bag, like every president. But genuinely, this is elder abuse. The guy doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know what he's saying, and they're keeping him in office because he's kind of a company man and this, that, the other thing. But genuinely, I think this whole thing with fighting wars. Enough of this. Let's get a boxing ring. You put in your guy, we'll put in ours, because you guys are the ones that want to fight, not all of us. We don't want a war. I don't want a war with anybody. And I certainly don't owe China $13 trillion.
Yeah.
So enough of this.
Yeah, I agree with that. Or probably short of that, probably let's have those billionaires fight each other. I was actually looking forward for the Musk versus Zuckerberg, but they didn't.
I was looking forward to that fight so much. I was considering live streaming from the podcast studio, watching the fight. It was gonna have my friends over. It was gonna be a whole thing.
Yeah.
They were gonna do it in the Coliseum. It was gonna be awesome, man. I was really looking forward to that. Genuinely.
Yes, me too.
But I do think this, like, if that was the criteria, all of a sudden you can't elect an 80-year-old guy as your president because he's gonna have to fight another world leader if a fight breaks out, right? Justin Trudeau could probably beat Biden in a fight, and Trudeau's not exactly in my brain as like a guy that can throw down in the streets to get anything done.
All right, it's been a great conversation, and
it's been fantastic. Thank
nice
you for having me on.
To you, and
you got to come on my show now.
Yeah, sure.
Set something up. It'll have to be after winter break.
Yes, no problem. I'll be there.
It's actually not true. I'll talk to you after the show. I do have one slot open at the very end. We could maybe make it work.
All right, great. Thank you very much, and
thank you.
Great to have future generation talking in this convos. As I do need a lot of people. Again, Carsen representing Carsen here. It's not representing any organization, and me also. I may say that I'm from Storyburg. I founded Storyburg, but this is also my personal perspective, my personal point of view as well. All right. With that, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. If you're a college student listening to this and any of this Bridge USA stuff, political bridge building, sounds enticing to you, reach out to me. I believe my contact information will be put somewhere with this. Reach out to any of these organizations to get involved. We'd love to have you. We are building something. I do think we're building something pretty special. And it's a lot of people, very passionate people. This is not just a movement of centrists. These are very opinionated people with the belief that, we cannot continue on like this anymore. Right. We have to start to see the humanity in each other.
And start talking to your neighbors. Start talking to whoever that you meet, regardless of their point of view. Okay?
Turn your assumptions into questions.
Yes.